welcome to all of you dear students to the EDUHUNT IIT and NEET Foundation classes. In this particular video class, we are going to learn the ionic bond. Understood? The definition of ionic bond and how the particular ions are combined or attracted with the help of the ionic bond. Okay. So in chemical bonding, already we discussed there are three types of bonds usually we will come across. Okay, the first one is the ionic bond, second one is the covalent bond, and third type is coordinate covalent bond, which is nothing but a slight modification or slight development of the covalent bond. So there are three important types of bondings. One is, already I told you, ionic, covalent and coordinate covalent. In this particular video, we are going to understand the definition of ionic bond and how the atoms are involving in the formation of ionic bond. I'll explain you. Okay, let us start. All are ready now? Shall we start? Right. So, dear students, ionic bond. First, I'll give you the definition. Okay, that is related to the ionic bond. The exact definition, there are two ways to express the ionic bond. Okay, in the first way we can say like this: the electrostatic force of attraction between two oppositely charged ions is called as the ionic bond. Okay, I repeat dear students, the electrostatic force of attraction between two oppositely charged ions is called as what? Ionic bond. I'll write this one, the statement. The charged ions is called ionic bond. Okay, please observe this statement. The electrostatic force of attraction, electrostatic force of attraction, it is a kind of attractive force, an attraction force, okay, between two oppositely charged ions, which we simply call it as the ionic bond. I think you got the definition, you got this definition, and at any time you can now tell me that what is the definition of ionic bond. If anyone asks you, you can simply say the electrostatic force of attraction between two oppositely charged ions is called as the ionic bond. Okay, this is one way of expressing the ionic bond, and there is another way also which is little bit more simple than this one. Okay, see, ionic bond in another way can be expressed like this: the bond formed by the transfer of electrons, bond formed by the transfer of electrons is called ionic bond, is called ionic bond. Simple. So, ionic bond, in this statement we are saying the bond formed by the transfer of electrons. From one particular atom to another atom, electrons get transferred, because of which ionic bond is forming. That is the another way of expressing the ionic bond, dear students. So, till now we have observed the two ways to express the ionic bond, right? Now, in the by observing this second definition, we can now understand that the ionic bond can also be called as the electrovalent bond. Ionic bond can also be called as the electrovalent bond also. Please observe this one, all of you. Ionic bond can also be called as what? Electrovalent bond. Hope you understand this. That means valence electrons are involving in transfer, hence we are saying this as the electrovalent bond. So till now we are able to understand the two definitions. Ionic bond is the electrostatic force of attraction between two oppositely charged ions, or the bond formed by the transfer of electrons can also be called as the ionic bond. Hope you are able to understand these two definitions. Now I'll provide you one example. Okay, how and in what manner the ions are going to combine with the ionic bond. I'll give you one example, one or two examples with which you can very easily understand. Okay, observe this. I am going to consider a simple molecule, say sodium chloride. Okay, dear students, you know what is sodium chloride, which is the common salt which we consume every day in our foodstuffs, right? Which is also called as the rock salt also. You know this thing. And NaCl, sodium chloride, is an ionic compound. Please remember this point. It is an ionic bond, ionic compound. That means the compound which has got ionic bonds in it, right? So how this NaCl is having these ionic bonds, let us consider. See, the sodium, till now you know the way to write the Lewis dot structures. I explained, you know, in the previous classes the way to write the Lewis dot structures. Tell me, sodium, okay, in this particular substance sodium is there. Sodium has got how many valence electrons, dear students? Yes, sodium has got 1 electron in its valency shell, because sodium atomic number is 11, so its 11 electrons are spread in 3 shells, 2, 8, 1, 2, 8, 1, or in the orbital pattern you can say 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. That means in the valency shell of sodium there is only 1 electron, right? So this is the Lewis dot structure of sodium atom. Okay, now in the chlorine valency shell, let us consider this chlorine, whose formula symbol is Cl, right? And chlorine atomic number is 17, okay, and the way to write its electronic configuration is 287, or else in the normal format 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s2, 3p5. Yes or no? So please do remember, the third shell has got 7 electrons in the chlorine. That means its valency shell has got 7 electrons. So the number of valence electrons of chlorine are 7, right? So those 7 electrons I am representing in the form of crosses. Dear students, electrons can also represent with the help of this cross notation also. Okay, it can be represented with dot or else with the crosses also. For the better understanding purpose, I have mentioned the chlorine's valence electrons in the form of small crosses. How many crosses are there now? 7. That means 7 electrons are there around the chlorine in its valency shell. In sodium there is 1 electron. Clear? Now come to the point. Now for the stability, okay, every atom is either losing electrons or gaining electrons or sharing electrons only to attain the stability. Okay, so to attain the stability, every atom should acquire the octet configuration, which we already learned. Okay, octet configuration. That means every atom try to acquire 8 electrons in its valency shell. Okay, please come to the sodium now. Sodium has got 1 electron in its valency shell, right? If it loses that 1 electron that is present in its valency shell, its outermost orbit now becomes the second shell and it has got 8 electrons. I will represent this also. 1s2, 2s2, 2p6, 3s1. This is the electronic configuration of sodium atom. Okay, if this sodium loses this 1 electron from the 3s, if it loses that electron, now the valency shell would become the second shell. Okay, now the second shell has got how many electrons? 2 plus 6. it has got 8 electrons. That means octet is achieved, no? That means if sodium loses this electron, it gets the octet configuration. Very simple, right? In the similar way, chlorine has got 7 electrons already in its valency. So to acquire the octet configuration, it requires only 1 electron. That 1 electron that is lost or left by this sodium is being taken by this chlorine atom, and chlorine gets the octet configuration. Okay, dear students, so please observe now. So now what happens is, in the formation of sodium chloride, the sodium transfers this electron to the chlorine. Sodium transfers this electron to the chlorine. That means sodium is losing the particular electron, right? And chlorine is gaining that electron. Now what happens when sodium, any atom, if it is losing electron, what happens? The positive charge is going to be acquired by that atom. Yes or no? Till now, sodium atomic number is 11. There are 11 protons in the sodium nucleus and 11 electrons outside of it. So because of this, it is neutral. If it transfers this electron to the chlorine, what happens? The number of protons remains same in the nucleus, 11, but the number of electrons now become 10. That means 1 proton, 11 protons, 10 electrons, right? That means 1 proton is extra than electrons. So sodium acquires the +1 charge. Proton possesses the positive charge. You know this, in your lower classes you learned this. So sodium, after losing this electron, acquires the positive charge, Na+. It develops the positive charge. Clear? Now this electron is transferred to chlorine. Now observe the situation at chlorine. The chlorine has got 7 electrons in its valency shell already, and 1 electron is obtained from this neighboring sodium atom. So this has now completed its octet. That means it has now got 8 electrons. The point is, 1 electron is present extra in this chlorine atom now. That means chlorine atomic number is 17, means it is having 17 electrons outside the nucleus and 17 protons inside the nucleus. 17 protons, 17 electrons. So it is a neutral atom. But soon after gaining 1 electron, it's negative, it possesses 1 electron extra, so it is going to acquire the negative charge, -1. Now the total number of protons remains same, 17, but the electrons now 18. Electrons become 18. So 1 electron is extra now. So chlorine acquired the minus charge or a negative charge, right? Up to this point, after this transfer of electrons, this is the development of the charges on the two respective ions, +1, -1. Dear students, please observe, this is the positive charged ion, usually we call it as cation. This is the negative charged ion, usually we call it as the anion. Between a positive charged ion and a negative charged ion, definitely there will be an attractive force. Yes or no? Between plus and minus, there is attraction, right? So automatically a kind of attractive force is going to be developed between these two ions, which is generally in the static form, hence we call it as the electrostatic force of attraction. What kind of force? Electrostatic force of attraction that is going to be developed in between these two ions, which leads to the formation of NaCl molecule, right? So this is how the sodium chloride is formed. So our ionic bond is developed here between the Na plus ion and the Cl minus ion. The electrostatic force of attraction that is developed between these two ions is called as the ionic bond, or the bond formed by the transfer of electron. Electron is transferred, no, from sodium to chlorine. The bond formed by the transfer of electron can also be called as the ionic bond. So hope you are able to understand the two definitions now with this example. more clearly. Yes or no? Simple now. This is the ionic bond explanation. Ionic bond, how the ionic bond is formed, we can explain with this kind of simple examples. Hope all are able to understand this. So in this particular video, what we have learned is, we have learned exactly the definition of ionic bond, the two important definitions, and how the ionic bond is developed from neutral atoms. We have explained with the help of the sodium chloride formation. Okay, dear students, you can, like this, you can have few more examples. Okay, so just practice. In our material we are having some examples. Okay, with the help of that, practice the formation of MgO or else MgF2 formation, etc. by means of electron transfer. Okay, you can easily get a complete idea regarding the ionic bond formation. Okay, in the next video we will discuss about the ionic molecules or ionic substances. Okay, the favorable conditions for the formation of ionic bonding, and the properties of ionic bond containing compounds also we will learn in the next video. Okay, just go through these points and try to practice them with our material. Soon after the explanation of a few more concepts, we are going to do the work session. There are three worksheets which we will, each and every question I will explain to you. Until then, try to practice all the concepts that are going to be explained in this theoretical videos. Okay, dear students, hope all are able to understand now what exactly is the ionic bond and how the ionic substances are going to be formed. Okay, so please practice this. Thanks for watching.